The elderly woman pushed through the cluster of inspectors, pointing a bony and crooked finger at us. Or rather, at Holmes. She reeked of garlic and other assorted herbs that were completely foreign to my sense of smell.
"You don't know what you be messing with,"
she hissed through a mouthful of crooked teeth.
"But they gon' show you. Mark my words, detecting man. They gon' show you right enough. Maybe tonight."
Her cracked lips parted in a malicious smile. Smoothly, Holmes took his arms from behind his back where they had been folded throughout this discourse. He removed the pipe from his mouth and stepped around the gypsy woman. "Right then. Now shall we get on with the crime scene, gentlemen?" With a snake-like speed that I would not have supposed her to possess, the woman spun around and spat at Holmes, hitting him squarely between the shoulder blades. He paused and looked to the sky as though silently asking for patience before turning his gaze in her direction. "May I help you, good woman?" His tone was polite, but icy.
"Yella. Yella, yella. You be yella man."
She stalked past him, muttering under her breath and forking her fingers in what she most obviously thought was a meaningful manner. Some of her gargled jargon reached a whining pitch, achieving a sound not unlike that of a mosquito. When she reached the edge of the street, she looked back and cackled shrilly at us before continuing on her way. I watched her departure with no lack of puzzlement. "I say, dear fellow, you do have a way with the ladies." "Indeed, Watson. So it would appear." He came up beside me and flourished a handkerchief. "Now, if you would be so kind." Back at the flat that night, Holmes was more brooding than usual. Initially, I assumed it had been the ease of which the case had been solved. It had hardly seemed worth it for us to be called to a crime scene that was so obviously a stabbing. He was flitting about his bookcases, pulling down volumes and then replacing them on the shelves, sometimes casting them aside onto the floor with complete disregard. "My dear chap, whatever are you on about?" I asked from my armchair, safe from the combat zone of flying tomes. He was muttering to himself and pacing now, kicking strewn books aside as he went. "I always know where my things are, Watson. If I have need of laying hands on a particular item, I know exactly where it can be found. There is an order to my system, and I do not enjoy it to be trifled with." He pounded his fist in agitation upon his writing desk, an action that dislodged a mountain of papers and revealed a few books hidden on the desktop. He pounced on them as would a cat upon a mouse, still muttering. His search proved again to be fruitless, and he sat in his desk chair, fuming. "It's that damnable Hudson. She's been riffling through my belongings again, and I'm unable to find anything." I must admit that I found myself chortling at this. "After that scare she had with that lizard, Holmes, I find it highly unlikely that Mrs. Hudson would come into your study to straighten anything without expressed permission. Even then, she would do well to reconsider." The glare he cast me was bloodshot and gleaming. "This is no laughing matter, Watson. It is obvious that we have been ransacked, and I am in need of information. How am I to ward them off if I am unable to learn their weaknesses?" I sat up a bit straighter, beginning to feel alarmed at this unusual behavior. "And whom are we to be warding off?" "Gypsies!" he cried, wringing his hands in protest before him. Swiftly, I stood from my chair. "Good God, man! Get a hold of yourself! What the devil has gotten into you?" At this, he stood up as well, and pointed at me, a shaking finger. "Yes, indeed, my dear friend, what has gotten into me? That devil woman! That woman has placed upon me a curse of unkind proportions." I held my hands before me, as though this would ward off the intensity of his words. "Holmes, it is apparent that you need to calm down